I hear you starved yourself for 4 days. Why'd you go and do something like that, dude? Where did you go to fast?
A place called Era. It is Geary, and you drive down to Geary, but around the corner of the cliffs and that, unless you drive along a dirt road from Geary at the top and walk down about 2 miles, it is a mile and a half down to these private beaches that have got old cabins that people put up there years and years ago. We squatted in one of the cabins because they're never used. I went down there by myself.
What happened when you were down?
One of the things I didn't tell you about was when I was fasting, you absorb all the toxins and stuff that's in your body to eliminate what's in your body. You know, it's a cleansing type of thing. Well, I'd taken LSD and stuff in the past, and so I started tripping because the LSD come back into my system. So I started feeling, like I was tripping and stuff. I found out, I asked about it from experts, and they said, yeah, it was the LSD coming back into your kidneys and through your liver and that before you absorbed it. And so you got all this LSD that was sitting in your body, you know. So that was an experience and a half, but each day I was getting physically weaker, and the funny thing was I was down there for so long, for 4 nights, and each night it was so quiet and there was nobody for miles and miles. There was nobody there. Like, the nearest people were in Geary, and that was the ranger, and he didn't know I was there. And it was the middle of winter, and the weather wasn't real good, so there wasn't anyone there. So I didn't see a person for 4 days. I mean, not many people had that. I thought about it. I thought, how many people go on and not see another human being for 4 days? It's a long time. So, I got to spend that time with myself. And at night time, I couldn't help it. I got scared because I was so isolated and so alone, and it was so dark and so quiet. It was like being in a scary movie, being in the middle of nowhere and stuff. And I found it hard to go to sleep sometimes, because my head was going, how your mind thinks, making you afraid and that. So that was an experience on its own, just to teach me how the mind can cause all these feelings, just through thinking it. Like, you can be happy and then all of a sudden think someone's going to chop me in the head with an axe, and you start hearing noises and your heart starts pounding, and because of that thought, all these feelings arise. So I learnt that too, that thinking creates feelings, But the actual thing was how weak I felt, and that I had a surfboard, all this gear with me that I thought that I needed, like clothes and chains and things, and I was by myself. I didn't need to change every day and even shower. There's no one around. So I had to carry all this stuff back out up this 2 mile hill while I hadn't eaten for 4 days, and that was an experience that was hard. It was like climbing Mount Everest sort of thing, near getting to the top, running out of air and not being able to breathe real good, and that's why food gives you energy and stuff. But going without it was good, because when I finally had it, it was, it made me realise the elimination that I did through the fasting really made me healthy, I mean, imagine doing it every I only done it a couple of times, but imagine doing it over a 10-year period. You're very healthy.
How did you get onto fasting?
How I found out about it was I was in a health food shop and there was a book called The Miracle of Fasting by a guy called Dr. Bragg. And he apparently was a doctor to all the movie stars. Well, one of them was Ellie Mae Clampett, the one in Beverly Hillbillies. And she acted as a 19-year-old schoolgirl and she was 40. And he was showing the stars how to stay young. And he was showing them how to do it through fasting and non-salt diets, especially iodized salt, which is, it's cut with a lot of shit, you know. That's why people now are going to Himalayan salt and sea salt, because it's much more natural and unrefined. Like the salt of the past was pretty bad for you. So, you know, he emphasised on a no-salt diet. Unless you sea salt, he said, was all right. But the fasting, he said, was what kept people young, because it cleansed their body and made them feel really vigorous and healthy. So when I read Dr. Bragg and all the people that had, you know, all the famous people of Hollywood were, you know, he doctored and taught how to stay young and healthy so they could, you know, stay in their jobs longer, especially the women. So I read the book, you know, and sure enough, I practiced all the things that he said. Do it one, you know, to start off, you go without breakfast and lunch. No, you have dinner and go without breakfast and lunch and have dinner the next night, and you've done 24 hours. So he said, do that a couple of times for a month or so, and then try 3 days, you know, after about 4 or 5 months. And every 3 or 4 months, you go 3 or 4 days. He went up to 30 days, this guy, which to me is a month without food. Is, wow, I couldn't imagine it. But I mean, he was about, I think he was 80, and he was still climbing mountains, and you know, at his age, he was living proof of what he taught, you know. Amazing human being. He come to Australia and I heard him being interviewed by John Laws and that, you know, about being healthy and staying, you know, it's the fasting thing. But not many people know about fasting. It's amazing. Jesus fasted, you know, and you read about it and you think, oh, what's all this fasting? And the Muslims are into fasting. But there's a reason behind it. It's not just to go without food to honour God or some shit. It's about getting rid of all the bad things inside you that we eat through processed food. Processed foods, like he said in the book, there's only 16 organic minerals that you can have in your system. The rest are chemicals. And he said, and you only absorb the 16 organic minerals and the rest just float around in your body and turn into heavy toxins and end up going into the marrow of your bone. So, you know, and the only way to get rid of the green toxins that float around your system and end up getting too heavy and going down to the bottom of your marrow of your bone and going up through your bone, into your back, into your fingers, rheumatism and all that sort of thing, was to fast, so you could eat the chemicals, the green crystals. There was no other way of eating them without not eating, because your body was eating all the time. It didn't need to absorb the chemicals. That's what he was saying. So the only way to get rid of the chemicals inside your body was to fast. So that's what fasting was about for me. And the results were incredible. You know, the high I got was so high off it, you know, so energetic and so, I couldn't explain it. It was just like, you know, I'd given up. I smoked a lot of grass and hash and stuff around that time, and I'd given up for about 6 or 8 weeks, and that's when I went fasting, and I felt higher than I've ever felt anywhere at any time doing this fasting. So naturally, I think it's the greatest high you could ever get. And, you know, it's like surfing all day, and when you come out of the water, it's not all the stuff's running out of your nose. It's a real body cleanser, surfing and swimming. It just cleans your body out so well. So that was one thing I got really high off too. And a lot of surfers will tell you it's very healthy for you and very good for you, because all this salt water runs out your nose, and that, you know what it's like when you go swimming and you get a lot of, your nose runs a lot. It's just cleansing your body. It's just a beautiful way to see, is the cleanser of you know, the human system. For me, everybody should go to the sea somehow, some way, some form, you know, and use it, because it's there to replenish the body, I feel. That's why some surfers are so healthy and so, you know, and other swimming athletes are so healthy, you know, like them Olympic races and that, you know. Yeah. So much water in their system, and water's... yeah, we're made up of water, aren't we? It's me, Johnny. I'm home.